Welcome back to Inside Steelers Nation on SNR. I'm Randy Slack with Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley. Guys, I was doing a little research. I was talking to DV's Mike Pursuta. We were talking about how the Steelers and Steelers ended up finishing with one more sack this year than the Jacksonville Jaguars. I could not, but Mike said, I bet that the Jags have more hurries than the Steelers defense did. I looked all over the internet. I cannot find that, but I did find some very interesting stuff about the Jaguars. And the NFL does keep track of the fastest sacks.
I think NFL.com does
NFL.com has like their next-gen stats. The fastest sack of the year, Calais Campbell, 2.02 seconds. The thing that I find that's amazing to me about this, the other guys that have the really fast sacks like that are Mike Hilton, William Jackson. They're all like
unblocked corners.
It's all unblocked corners and things. And he's a defensive lineman, and he got to the quarterback in 2 seconds. And Ngakoue also had one that clocked in at like 2.35. Like just crazy
like
athletic.
As fast as you could possibly get there.
Yeah,
he does, right.
Like it's wild.
Like nobody blocked him.
The thing another thing I found that was interesting with this team, I looked at like the Steelers. I compared the Steelers to Jags ratings on third down, and the quarterback defensively.
Okay.
And the Steelers on third down, their quarterback rating allowed, just because it's just kind of the easiest way to look at it. They would allow around 60% on third down, or not 60%, but like around a 60 to 70 QB rating. The Jags, it was 50 to 60. On 3rd and 7 or more, third and 7 to 9, it was a 30, and 3rd and 10 and more, it was a 22. Like
the third and long is doomed.
Third and long is just horrible. You're putting yourself in an extremely bad situation. The Steelers had 4 of those, 2 were first downs and 2 were interceptions.
And there was probably a lot of penalties that put them in that situation and things like that, from what I remember.
And those are key. You can't get penalties against these guys, but that's a problem when you're playing a defensive line that is as active as these guys. You're going to get the occasional holding call and stuff like that.
And if you don't run the ball on 1st and 2nd down, you end up with a sack or a hold or something like that.
Yeah, you'd much rather be, run the ball even if you only get 3 yards on first down. 2nd and 7 is much more preferable than to 2nd and 10.
3rd and 4 is not the end of the world.
Right.
And, right.
Yeah, on another interesting thing I found, and when we talked to Ryan O'Halloran, which is coming up in the next segment here, he talked about, and you've seen it if you watch the Jaguars, the D-line, it's rush the passer and then get to the runner if you can. And on 3rd and 7 and more, they're averaging allowed 9.4 yards a carry. So on 3rd and 7s, they're giving up.
Right.
You can gash them because they're just pinning their ears back and they're going to go after Ben.
Yeah, they do kind of stop the run on the way to the quarterback.
Yeah,
kind of like the Colts used to with Freeney and Mathis and those guys. Yeah. And they are very, very athletic and they're very dangerous.
And Telvin Smith's a kid. He's a guy that's light in the pants. He's really fast, but he's not very big.
Yeah. And Jack's a good blitzer. They don't blitz a lot, but he's a pretty good blitzer, downhill player at times. He does everything well. One thing we haven't mentioned, I really like Ngakoue. But I think that he's a speed rusher, and I think Villanueva handles them better than the power guys. I don't know if you agree or not, but
I think that's true because the power guys can kind of get
under him and jack him.
That's where they use his height against him.
Yes.
Whereas the speed guys, he has the reach to kind of push them out of the equation. I think until you get up next to him and see how big he is. I mean, again, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's like playing against Martavis Bryant. You can watch him on film, but he doesn't look as fast on film as he does when you're playing against him. Same thing with Villanueva. You don't realize how big he is until you get out there, and it's like a mountain.
I want to see him and Campbell tie into each other. Yeah. And it's like Andre the Giant and Big John Studd.
Do you think because of that they might keep Campbell more on the Villanueva side?
It's interesting because they're more versatile now up front than they used to be. Where Campbell's been kind of linked to Hayward a little bit, but Campbell will line up outside the tackles at times. And they can throw a big front at you now where it's Darius and Jones, who's kind of a plugger nose tackle type. He doesn't get a lot of publicity. But instead of Ngakoue and Fowler, they can put Jackson and Campbell as their pure 4-3 ends and throw a lot of beef at you. So if the Steelers would happen to say, we're going to go 6 D linemen or 6 offensive linemen with nicks and, a power formation, they have a better answer for that now too, because they used to be more finesse upfield type of guys, where now they can kind of do both.
But if you go with that tight end package look,
yeah,
I think that also favors the Steelers in terms of what they can get with Vance McDonald and stuff.
Yeah, probably
down the middle of the field.
Probably.
To me, he could be the key guy in this game.
Their numbers against tight ends are great.
They weren't great. They didn't play last week like they were.
No, that's a good point.
I mean, it was there, and the Bills just didn't take advantage of it. And I really think that McDonald's a different kind of. He's more athletic than certainly.
Oh yeah.
Nick O'Leary.
Right. Yes. 100%.
He might be a good golfer. I don't know. Grandfather was, but he's not going to beat people down the field, and yet he was in those situations. And I don't know whether they were paying so much attention to Shady McCoy that they were
maybe
slow getting off the line of scrimmage or what. But
talk about next generation stats. They do one of their next generation stats is how much separation do receivers get. The Bills receiving core is at the bottom, like whale dung, like the bottom, Mariana's Trench, and then whoever's number 31's up here somewhere.
Sure.
Right. I mean, no separation, and they were getting separation. And they were open guys. So the Steelers are probably one on that list.
Yeah, it's been weird with that secondary because they have been gashed, and to the point you brought up in the last segment, Dale, with the they've given up big plays, and I think it's just. I mean, they're isolating those guys. They're letting their corners play one-on-one, and that can work. But at the same time, if it doesn't work, it can be a disaster.
It's a high-risk way of doing it. And it's a lot of faith in some great players, but the Steelers have great players too.
The one thing I don't want to see the Steelers do in this game, and I know a lot of fans hate it anyways, but it is effective at times. I don't want to see bubble screens.
Yeah,
against these guys.
Because they'll run them down.
These guys will run them down and they'll jump them. The cornerbacks will blow them up. Because they will be playing press. So, you can maybe fake a bubble screen and try to slip somebody in behind them. We've seen the Steelers do that in the past, and that has worked. But don't come out of here and think you're going to see 10 bubble screens on Sunday. I don't think you're going to see that.
You mentioned Telvin Smith, and he'll be all over. He's a flash. I mean, he is Ryan Shazier fast. He isn't that big, but he'll track that stuff down.
Yeah.
And
He's
Jack
safety
can really
size.
run. Yeah, right. So, use their team speed against them. Don't let them run the ball.
Another thing, we've talked about this a little bit earlier this week. Punting's okay against this team.
For sure.
You don't want to turn the ball over. Don't give them anything because the defense, to win this game, they're going to need a defensive touchdown, the Jaguars.
I would think.
I don't think that they would be able to score enough just on their offense to beat the Steelers. And eventually Blake will give the ball back to you.
Or at least a pick that puts them in field goal position, and as long as you don't have to rely on the offense. And even Fournette, I mean, people here are probably afraid of Fournette, but I don't think he's played very well lately.
He is not. No, he's not been nearly 2.5 yards a carry. I think his last 3 games.
That sounds about right. And for some reason, back then they used Ivory and Yeldon a lot. Now he's getting like 95% of the snaps.
Yeah.
And
they're
he's got a
giving
bad ankle.
Grant's the guy they're going
to. Right. And he's got a bad ankle. He doesn't look very laterally agile or explosive. I mean, he's still a very talented player, but I mean, he's not as scary as you would think now.
Any concern at all with Hargrave and Tuitt and Artie Burns on the injury? He was listed on the injury report with a back. So.
No, I expect those guys to play, and they both said I don't know about Hargrave, but Tuitt and Burns both said that they expect to play on Sunday. So we'll see about Hargrave. We'll find out tomorrow, but I don't expect it to be anything major.
I think a lot of people just saw the headlines on Burns. I know I'm kind of late to this conversation, and non-contact knee injury is like the worst thing you can ever hear.
Right. Yeah. Right. I talked to him this morning.
Horrible.
Talked to him this morning, and he just said he hyperextended a little bit. It's scary.
Yeah. Right.
But they gave him the MRI. It's fine. He's fine. He was walking around today. Has a little wrap on it. Tuitt was in he had a sling on yesterday. No sling today. Said he expects to practice tomorrow. So
those two are quality players, especially Tuitt. But without them, it wouldn't change my opinion on this game, because I still think Alu is better than their blockers.
Yeah.
I think that the Steelers' D-line is a big advantage against their O-line, especially with Tuitt, but even without him. And Burns is fine, but he also has been the culprit of some blown coverages and things too. And their receivers aren't that good. The Steelers have good corners anyways. If Hayden was out, it'd be a bigger deal. But they'll be fine without him.
Now, we didn't get to this yesterday, Dale, but Ryan Shazier obviously was at practice. I know a lot of the guys talked about that. And
he was here today as well.
Was he? He was here today. Okay. That's got to provide some motivation for this team.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, the guys talk about it being more about him, kind of being a just therapy for him to be around them,
right?
To be here and be a part of this. He's always going to be on their minds, and that's not going to change. But I don't think any of them want to, they don't necessarily like that narrative. Well, we're going to win for Ryan. No, they still want to win for themselves. It's nice that could happen, and they still want him to be a part of it. But they realize that that can't be the sole reason or the sole thing that drives them or anything like that. I mean, they still have to go out and play.
Wolf had mentioned yesterday he was in really good spirits and all smiles and happy to be here, and people were excited to see him. And then they also had mentioned, I think it was Tim had mentioned that he's trying to stick his nose in the game plan, and he's trying to watch tape, and he's trying to coach these guys up, or remember what the Jags did to us last time. Don't bite on this and that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm happy for him that he can get out and he can kind of get more into back to see his team and be at the facility and that kind of stuff, just to kind of get out of get back to the old routine as much as he can anyway. Again, people have talked about when we've talked a little bit about the Steelers and Jags and will the Steelers overlook Jacksonville, and I
don't see that at all.
I don't think they can.
It's a home playoff game with a bazillion terrible towels, and you're embarrassed by these guys last time.
Humiliated by these guys. Yeah, 30-9.
Your quarterback's tongue-in-cheek saying maybe I don't have it anymore. I mean, he's begging to play these guys, I bet.
Oh, and he's been very low-key with everything this week. I mean, he skipped out on his Tuesday radio show because I'm sure they were going to ask him about that again after he said, the previous week that, which team do you think I want to face and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, these guys look for any edge that they can get in terms of that, and the mental edge for him. I mean, he's a competitor. He wants to go out and show these guys. People were talking nationally. The talking heads out there, the Stephen A. Smiths and morons like that, were saying, well, Ben Roethlisberger said he should have just retired.
Have you watched?
He's saying that now.
2 months, right?
He's averaged in his last 10 games 298 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in the last 10 games. I mean, he's a much better player now than he was when they played last time around, and much more faith in those around him. Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it. I mean, you've seen Juju Smith-Schuster emerge. You've seen him get more comfortable with a lot of the guys that he's playing with out there. I don't think at that point in the season, 5 weeks into it, I don't know that was the case. Vance McDonald was new to the team. Martavis Bryant hadn't played in over a year.
Bell was still rounding into shape,
too. Bell
was
still rounding into shape. Juju Smith-Schuster was still a rookie. People forget he didn't catch a pass in the opener.
Yeah, Martavis was all over the place at that point.
So, I mean, really all he had that he could count on was Brown and Jesse James. And everybody else was new.
And there's no arguing he just wasn't playing as well either.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't making throws. He was not the player that he is now.
And you just wonder how much of that was that trepidation when you're throwing the football. Is this guy going to be where I expect him to be? Because,
I hope, and I don't think it's going to be the case, but he is an extreme competitor, and that could be working against you. That I hope he doesn't come to the line and take the cheese again because now I can beat him. And, hand it to Lev.
Yeah.
When in doubt.
That run-pass percentage has to change.
Yeah.
That's not a winning formula against these guys.
26 is pretty good.
Right. He should be fresh as could be,
It's a hot
fresh as a daisy. I'm your daisy.
We will hear from Ryan O'Halloran, and he covers the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Florida Times-Union next. This is Inside Steelers Nation on SNR.